This is Professor Michael Chapman. I'm one of the most experienced IVF doctors in Australia. I believe that an important part that I can contribute is to educate patients in relation to fertility, infertility, and all that involves. These series of podcasts help to educate you. I hope they are helpful to you. If you wish to know more, however, I'm more than happy to have you contact me via email, which is profmchapman@gmail.com, or make an appointment to see me on 9138 4222. The second topic I thought I'd talk about tonight is one that is troubling many women, and I'll say troubling many GPs as well, is the concept of ovarian reserve, i.e. the number of eggs that are in the ovaries and the ways in which we go about measuring them and giving us some idea of the number of eggs in the ovary. I'd start by saying that women get all the eggs they're ever going to get when they're inside their mother's womb. Something in the order of 3 to 5 million, what they call primordial follicles that have the potential to grow into an egg. It's a pretty wasteful system because over a woman's lifetime, she'll probably only use 400 of those from the day she starts ovulating to the day she goes through menopause. In fact, by birth, the number of primordial follicles left in the ovary is already dropped down to 500,000 to 1 million from that original 5 million when she was 12 weeks pregnant. From that point on, the loss continues. Over the next 50 years, the numbers of primordial follicles keeps on dropping year by year to eventually at menopause, the supplies run out. The issue that we uncover is when we use tests to get some estimate of those that ovarian reserve. And what we find is that in some women, even in their 20s and 30s, they have low ovarian reserve, and what do we do about it? People panic, and it's usually unnecessary panic. But it's important that the opinion that you get given, if you do come in with suggested ovarian reserve reduction, that the person you talk to understands what they're talking about. And many GPs, I'm afraid, give misleading advice, and I would say even some of my colleagues in the fertility field push patients to rush into doing IVF when perhaps a little more patience is still able to happen. Because even with a low ovarian reserve, it doesn't mean menopause is around the corner. So the two tests that we use to assess that ovarian reserve, one is a blood test, which measures a hormone called anti-Müllerian hormone. It's a funny name, anti-Müllerian. It's actually because in embryology, the Müllerian ducts form a part of the reproductive system and primitive forms of the reproductive system, and there's a hormone that controls that, and that's just called anti-Müllerian hormone. That's when it was first found, but what was then found later on, probably 15 years ago, was that the level of AMH probably does reflect the numbers of eggs that are in the early stages of development in the ovary. So it talks about egg numbers. What we know from a lot of research that's gone on is that your peak AMH level is going to be in your late 20s, early 30s, and from that point on, it does start to decline, heading towards zero at menopause. So doing a blood test gives you some idea where you are on that programmed loss of eggs. Gives you some idea, but the rate at which it occurs is actually much more difficult to determine. So even low AMH levels in the lower 25% may stay the same levels for many, many years. The range of AMH levels is actually quite broad. So if you're 30, while the average at 30 is probably around 9 or 10 is the number. So not the number of eggs, but it's the number that the AMH level is. But normal women still have levels of 3. And they may also have levels of 20 plus. So it's a very wide range. So that makes it also difficult to give predictions about what's going to happen into the future. So if you have a low AMH level and your GP panics and says, oh, you better go and have IVF, just make sure you go to somebody who understands what's going on. Because what the AMH level does not tell us is the quality of eggs. At 30, if you have a low AMH level, the quality of those eggs is the same as if you had a high AMH level. It doesn't change the quality. Age is the most important predictor of the quality of the eggs. So when you're 40 and you have a low AMH level, then the majority of those eggs are actually going to be poor quality.
And don't forget that you can access all the previous episodes by going to our website www.theivfjourney.com and select IVF Journey podcast from the navigation menu.